Yes, sir, we can start now.
Yes, sir, we can proceed, sir. It's 2 o'clock.
Okay. A warm good afternoon to one and all co-present here. On behalf of PSNA College of Engineering and Technology and Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, we welcome you all for the Day 5, Session 3 of Atal sponsored online 5 days faculty development program on perspectives of blockchain integrated with IoT challenges and opportunities. I also extend my welcome to today's resource person, Ms. J. Chandrapriya ma'am, Assistant Professor CSE, King's College of Engineering, Pudukkottai. I welcome you, ma'am. Now the session is yours, ma'am. You can carry on, ma'am. Thank you. Chandrapriya ma'am.
Sir, I'm available, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Thanks for the brief introduction, Professor. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee for giving me another chance for connecting with you all in order to share my perspectives on research perspectives on blockchain with my colleagues and my fellow researchers. So, to all the techies out there who are not from a branch background, when you come across this word blockchain, the first thing that strikes into your mind will be your cryptocurrency trading and Bitcoin investments. Now, Bitcoin is a use case of a blockchain. When do you ever think that what makes this blockchain to have this hype or the inside basic thing for blockchain technology is absolutely networking, right? So wireless networking. Above that, you will be having distributed computing. So again, we have much of cryptographic primitives such as your public key cryptography, digital signatures, and other than that, you have a cryptographic hash algorithms that forms the very basic thing of your blockchain technology. And above all, you have a game theoretic approach, which is what consensus, right? Do you all have heard in this FDP, or you can hear that Bitcoin uses proof of work algorithm, which is a resource consuming algorithm, right? So with all these into consideration, you may wonder that when you converge or leverage any two technology for implementing, that itself forms the implementation to be more complex. Now think of that, how could you combine all these technologies into a point of convergence for implementation? So that is why blockchain implementation becomes somewhat complex in comparing with other technologies, and might be this will be a boom or a hype for this blockchain technology. So with all these into consideration, how come this implementation is possible? So for that we have, in that case, we have different blockchain frameworks into the market. So keeping all this aside, let me come to a point that make it as simple as such how I can compare a blockchain as a data structure. So in that case, I'm going to compare this blockchain with a very well-known data structure called linked list. So in linked list data structure, you will be having data items along with the pointer address, and each of this pointer address will be pointing to the next data item in the list. So keeping this into mind, I can compare the physiology of blockchain with this linked list data structure. So in blockchain also, you will be having data items, and these data items will to each other in order to form a linkage is possible with the help of cryptographic hashing. So, what actually the data contains? As you all know, or you have all heard about, each of this data list will be having more number of transactions, and each of these transactions are confined or changed into a cryptographic hash, and it will be formed into a Merkle tree, and the root of that Merkle tree will be added into the blockchain. So, which makes blockchain complexity as a slighter one when we use all this cryptographic hashing algorithms. So, with all this into consideration, we move on to the visual demonstration of a Bitcoin-based blockchain. Okay, so if possible, you can go with this link. So andersbrownworth.com/blockchain. So here, this researcher
Can
have
you share that link
made.
in chat box, ma'am? Ma'am, can you share the link in chat box?
Just a
That
second.
the participants
Yes,
can
yes,
do.
yes, sir. Just a second. Yes, sir. Just a second.
The participant itself shared, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. You can carry on.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Okay, sir. So you can do as such with me. So we can start exploring the hash tab of that site. So in that you will be having SHA-256 cryptographic hashing algorithm. As you all know, this cryptographic hashing algorithm will be helping you to generate the hash value for a given data. Okay, so let me type. I've typed blockchain as such here in the data field. It will be generating me a hash value. Again, if I tend to change a single character in that particular data, so for example, I have changed the case of B to uppercase, from lowercase to uppercase, I have changed the letter, and you can notice that the generated hash value will be totally different from the other one, right? So when you have a lowercase b in your blockchain, you will be getting a different hash value, and when you change a slighter, a single character in your data, it will generate a total hash. Meaning is that even a single bit change in that particular data will be having a tremendous change in the generated hash value. This is what is called as avalanche effect in cryptography. So this SHA hashing algorithm will be using this effect for generating a unique hash value for each of your data. And one more thing to be noted here is, if at all, if you give the same data as such, blockchain in a lower case at any point of time, you're getting the same data, all the data into a single algorithm. Data, that is linear data in this data field, and you can wonder that the hashing value also generated here with the same length. So if I give a single word, or able to get a hash value which is of fixed length, meaning is that this SHA-256 algorithm will be taking variable length data, and it will be producing a fixed length data at any point of time. Fine. So extending this idea into block, you can go to the block tab of that site now, where you can find this page. You have this will be the very basic data block, where you have only 4 fields here, right? So you have a block number which uniquely defines the number of that particular block, and you, as usual, you have a data field and a hash value. And one more thing here to be noticed is nonce value, right? You have a new field called nonce value. Fine. So if at all I try to give a data in this data field, I can able to get a hash value that is not of a pattern, right? So you can just remind that when we have clicked that block tab, you can notice the hash value which is starting from 4 zeros. Am I right? So meaning is that is a specialized hash value, and that 4 leading zeros of that hash value means the difficulty value of that particular cryptographic hash puzzle. So this is how Bitcoin uses proof of work algorithm, right? So that and that 4 zeros means the difficulty value in the Bitcoin framework. And when you increase that difficulty value, the time to mine and block will be getting increased. So and at the same time, the security is also getting increased. So the security of the consensus or the Bitcoin framework relies on this difficulty value, definitely, right? So when I give any type of data over here, I can generate a hash value, but the thing to be noted here is the hash value is not of that specialized hash value with leading number of zeros, right? But the constraint is the data field is out to the user wish to enter any type of data, right? I cannot force the user to go with only this type of data. So that data field can take any type of data based on the application scenario. So the only way to have that specialized hash value with leading number of zeros is altering the nonce value. So I can have that nonce field that will be changing from 1, 2, 3, 4 up to n, such a way that at any point of time in a polynomial time, I can able to reach a particular nonce value. Along with this data will produce a hash value with that leading number of 4 zeros. So can you able to get my point? This is what is called as cryptographic hash puzzle in proof of work algorithm. So when I click this mine button, the system is doing that trial and error process for giving values to that nonce field, right? So whenever you click that mine button, the value of nonce field is getting changed or increased such that at one point of time you can get the hash value to be specialized hash value with 4 number of zeros. So you can see here the value of hash is now 4 zeros at the nonce value of 15446, right? So that system will take this much of time in order to change the nonce value to get the specialized hash value. So of mining in Bitcoin. Yes, now extending this process into blockchain. You can click the tab of blockchain in that site. So you can able to see this blocks combining into each other to form a chain. And you can notice that each of your block will be having 2 types of hash value here. One is the current hash value of that particular block, and you have a previous hash value, which is the hash value of the immediate previous block. So this is how the blocks are getting connected in the blockchain, and such a way that the first block of your blockchain is called a genesis block, and the previous hash value will be all zeros, meaning is that will be the node or first block of the blockchain. So extending this idea to the same way, when you change the data field at the mid of any block, obviously that particular block is getting invalidated, right? So once a So as long as if corruption has occurred in the mid of the blockchain, that particular blockchain is getting break in that point itself. Particular blockchain idea into a distributed thing, right? So extending this idea to a decentralized distributed manner, we'll be having different peers running the same copy of blockchain at different places of the world, right? So in that case, I'll be naming that as peer A, peer B, and peer C for this example. And if a block 5 is yet to change in the peer C, so it will be generating the hash value that will show a different value, and that particular block is getting invalidated. And if PRC is able to mine that block, that will be produce a hash with 00073A, as you know, as you see in this slide. So once for all, this here is where the consensus occurs. So PRC's last block is getting changed, and it helps itself to mine that block. Everything is okay now, but now when you compare the last block's hash value of peer B, peer A, and peer C, you can have a controversy here. Meaning is that peer A's last block hash value is different, and peer C's last block value is different, whereas peer A and peer B is saying a same hash value for its last block. Here the majority wins, meaning is that the block that has been corrupted in peer C is now invalidated and thrown out of the blockchain. So this is consensus value, sorry, same hash value is getting approved, and the block which has a different hash value, even though it has been mined, it will be broken out of that.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, voice is not audible, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Voice is not audible, ma'am.
The source person will join in another 2 minutes. Please stay on the line.
Hello, ma'am.
Sir?
Ma'am.
Hope
It is
I'm
audible, ma'am.
audible.
Now
sir.
audible, ma'am.
Proceed.
Yes, ma'am. You can share your screen, ma'am.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, now moving on to this. Can you able to see my screen, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
sir. Thank you, sir. So, sir?
No, ma'am. You can carry on.
You can carry on.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So I was telling about how come a transaction is validated before its initiation. That is, how come a transaction or an authority knows that that particular entity is having that much of amount to transfer to another entity B. So in that case, a Coinbase come into account. So we have this Coinbase which decides on the amount before initiating a transaction. This is something like your minimum balance, right? So whenever you are supposed to open a account in your bank, you will be asked to maintain a minimum balance, right? So that is something called as Coinbase in your Bitcoin implementation. So with all these into consideration, we have now seen the block validation of blockchain now. So getting into somewhat deeper manner, we are going to analyze how public key cryptography is used here in order to have a transaction level validation in case of your blockchain. So you can go to the site now, the same andersbrownworth.com. You can go for public private keys. So as you all know, we have public key cryptography utilized in this blockchain mechanism at very transaction level. So each of an entity will be having a key pair of public and private key pair. So we will be deciding on the private key, that is the owner or the entity of the data will be deciding on the private key. Cryptographic algorithm, right? So whenever I need to sign that particular message with the help of my private key, and this private key is meant for me alone, and the generated public key from that private key will be known to all the participants within that particular network. Right? And with this message be transferred to B. So the owner of the data can sign that particular data. It is coming from the whole, whether the data is known about cryptography. That will be in two field again there will be address. These are all the public addresses of entity A and entity B. So that is the sender and the receiver. Only public addresses are being used in blockchain to identify a node in a network, right? So here from node A to node B, $80 has been sent using this private key, right? So I find that in the recipient side, the verification has been happened, and this particular transaction, once getting digitally signed, get into the block along with the message signature. So once for all, a transaction that is kept into the block will be having message along with the digital signature or message signature, right? So this is the concern in a Bitcoin based framework, right? So a transaction along with the signature has been appended into the block. Okay, now if I tend to change the value in that particular transaction, right, the amount in that particular transaction, obviously the signature of that particular transaction will be of invalid, right? You can see that the signature become red here, right? So obviously the transaction has been invalidated now. If my miner is able to mine this block successfully, even then the signature will not be validated. You can see here, even after the mining process, the block turned to be green here after mining, but still the transaction signature is again red now. So it is not getting validated again, meaning is that the miner don't have the private key of me, because only the transaction owner is having that private key for that particular message signature, right? So the miner will also not known of my private key, and he or she cannot able to mine that block. At the same time, even I am the owner of that particular data, I try to change that data before getting the signature. Obviously, the particular block will be turned to invalid, meaning is that even if the owner is me and I can able to change the data, the block is getting invalidated. So whatever the data entered into the blockchain cannot be changed, whoever the owner may be. Maybe the owner can also not change the data. So this is the immutability property of blockchain. Once for all, I can change the private key, but again, it is not able to validate that particular block. So keeping all this into consideration, let us move on to the main question of research community. What actually the framework should I use in order to implement my research work? Yes, before getting into finding out how we choose this framework, first of all, we need to find out the type of blockchain and what are all the pros and cons of these type of blockchain in order to find out the very apt framework for my research work. Fine. So whenever you are hearing about public blockchain, the first framework that comes into your mind is Bitcoin. But the fact is, Bitcoin is not a framework, and you cannot use that Bitcoin framework as it is in our blockchain. Since it is a use case of blockchain, you cannot use that resource-consuming Bitcoin framework into blockchain of our application area in today's life, right? So, what are the other frameworks in case of your public blockchain? So, the first and renowned framework will be your Ethereum framework. Again, Ethereum framework will be having tokens, assets called Ethers into working into your blockchain. But the fact is, how come you get this Ethers? As we are doing research, we are not able to work in the actual Ethereum network. As for all, we are working in the testbed of Ethereum, where you need to gain Ethers from posting some data into Facebook or some data into Twitter in order to get a limited amount of Ethers, right? So you have to constrain all your process into that limitation of ethers to make a blockchain work, right? So that is the disadvantage. What about private blockchain? So the first and renowned familiar framework of this private kind of blockchain is Hyperledger Fabric, right? So when compared with all the other frameworks, Hyperledger is gaining momentum in this research community. But the fact is, in Hyperledger Fabric, you need to have you don't have any assets, right? You cannot go for using this Hyperledger Fabric for incentivization based application. So you cannot have assets over here, and there is no crypto tokens for Hyperledger, and you cannot use this framework for your research purpose when you have the application area of tokenization or incentivization, right? So the thing is, I need to go for a type of blockchain where I can inherit the properties of public blockchain and inherit the properties of private blockchain. So I cannot go into a fully decentralized environment. At the same time, I cannot go into a fully centralized environment. So in that case, I move on to a hybrid or federated type of blockchain called consortium blockchain. So on my perspective, whenever you go for applying blockchain in a resource constrained environment like IoT, you can go for considering this consortium type of blockchain, right? So you can have assets over here, or you can have a consensus that can be modified here, right? So with all this into consideration, I move on to multi-chain implementation. Right. So as I have told you earlier, we have different frameworks. The renowned frameworks will be Bitcoin, the basic of blockchain. Again, you have Ethereum and Hyperledger. So now I'm going to introduce you about multi-chain framework. So I just want you to I just want to make a pass here and ask whether so far we have discussed about all the types of blockchain. Is it okay now, or you have any queries to be addressed?
Ma'am, it's good only. We can proceed.
Yes, thank you. So in that case, I move on to a type of framework called multi-chain framework. Here in multi-chain framework, the first thing to be attracted to any research community is multi-chain can be installed in your Windows, Linux, and Mac type of OS. Yes. Yes, multi-chain can be installed in Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And other thing to be noted here is you can make your multi-chain as a private blockchain or a consortium type of blockchain based on their requirements. Customize your multi-chain into either private consortium type of blockchain, right? Yes, and one more thing is this blockchain framework, that is multi-chain blockchain framework, it is adopted from your Bitcoin framework. So it is inherited for yourself, and the code is written in a very basic language of C and C++. And this framework can be used to set up any type of blockchain. You can make this multi-chain into a Bitcoin style blockchain, and you can make this multi-chain as a Hyperledger type of blockchain. So you can able to configure this multi-chain in any of the forms, right? So and one more thing is streams. So this is the main and most important concept of multi-chain, which is called as streams. So this streams can be used as a database where you can pass in order to address the data that is residing on the multi-chain. So what is the aim of laptop and internet connection can be able to get into this Bitcoin? Am I right? So those who are into cryptocurrency trading, you might have wondered, right? You just download an application like WazirX or CoinDCX, and with that you can able to trade your Bitcoins, right? So those who have a laptop and net connection can able to take part in the public type of blockchain, which is Bitcoin. But at the same time, how come the security is or how come the transparency is divided here? So in that into consideration, we want to have the activity visible to only the selected number of participants, right? So in that case, we can go for using this multi-chain framework. So that is the first and foremost thing. Second one is I can have control over my data. So I can have a control on my stream also, right? It is like a channel that is owned by me, and I can have the full control on that. That is the second point. We can go for multi-chain framework. And third one is the consensus is not a proof of the consensus. So whenever you are going for a resource constrained environment application, then obviously you can go for choosing this multi-chain framework. Reason is that you don't have any resource consuming type of consensus over here. Right, so you can go for configuring the consensus algorithm. So the default configuration of this multi-chain consortium type of, and the consensus in default it will be giving you a round robin consensus. Round robin means you always know that round robin is giving equal amount of probability participation to all the nodes in the network. So that is round robin type of consensus. And the other thing to be noted here is the node that was set first in the blockchain network becomes the administrator. At the same time, particular can able to transfer administrative power to any set of nodes in the network, right? So this is never going to be a single authority concerned. This administrative power can be transferred eventually by with different set of network participants, and the connection between any two nodes is established by a handshaking process. So again, this is a secured way of sharing data. So in case of your Hyperledger, you will be having a channel where two or more participants can participate in that particular channel for sharing the data. Whereas in your Ethereum, multi-chain, particular sharing mechanism, secure sharing mechanism can be achieved with this streams concept or this handshaking process. Yes, so multi-chain was a Bitcoin implementation with consensus optimization, and you can configure even the block size also. And when you configure the block size, eventually your transaction time or transaction validity time will be getting reduced, right? Whereas in case of your Bitcoin, the transaction validity time is about 10 minutes, whereas in Ethereum it is reduced to seconds. But the question when you use this multi-chainers, it has been derived from Bitcoin, then what about the transaction finality? So I can say that this multi-chain can be able to give you even greater than 10,000 transactions. multi-chain parameter or configurable file. So then you have able to achieve a access controllability layer or permissioning layer above your Bitcoin framework, right? So, and you have multiple assets. So this thing to be stressed here, whereas in your Bitcoin, you have BT, that is Bitcoin as a asset, right? In case of Ethereum framework, you will be having Ethers as the asset. So these are all the native assets to that particular framework, whereas Hyperledger don't have any assets, right? But in here in multi-chain, you can able to configure, or this multi-chain can be able to support different types of assets. Right, you can use Dogecoins, Litecoins, whatever the coins you can set up here, right? So there is no native currency concept in multi-chain, and it can able to work with or without assets also. So next is initiating your multi-chain. So I already told you that the first node that has been configured in this multi-chain network will be the administrator, right? So this role is capable of changing in size by the consensus by a specialized number of administrators. So obviously one thing to keep in mind is multi-chain don't have a single administrator. It has some 10 to 11 administrators, or you can fix the number of administrators based on your network availability and the number of participants in your network, right? Sorry. So again, we have different types of permissioning in this multi-chain. So we can able to connect with other nodes via IP address, right? So there is no need of going for or remembering the wallet address or the public address of the node. So that is not necessary in multi-chain. You can able to connect to any other node with the IP address itself. And you can able to send and receive assets or issue assets, whatever you can do the transaction within the stream that can be created between any two entities. So next we move on to the actual implementation of this multi-chain. So you can able to download this multi-chain from the link I have given you in the prerequisites itself. You can have two types of blockchain installation. One is your multi-chain community installation, and another one is multi-chain enterprise demo. Whereas this multi-chain enterprise demo is no more open source, right? So that we can go for using this multi-chain community. And here in this multi-chain community, there is two versions. At first, there was multi-chain 1.0 version, and now we have multi-chain 2.0 version. And we can use multi-chain 2.0.7 as a standard version of this multi-chain. So I have downloaded this multi-chain and have extracted the multi-chain files in my C colon. So we start working now. So I have started a command prompt now in my physical machine, right? So why you need to have two different types of machine here is we are going to we are going to implement two nodes in a real-time environment and make that particular nodes to be connected with each other, right? So we are not going to simulate. Yes, ma'am. So we are not going to simulate any type of node mechanisms here. We are actually implementing or connecting nodes. I have downloaded multi-chain community, and I have shared that particular folder to my VirtualBox also, right? So in my desktop VirtualBox, I'm having this multi-chain community installed. So now in my physical machine, I'm going to start a command prompt. So those have downloaded this do with me. So at first, I need to create, or I need to open a command prompt in my physical machine. So in the physical machine, you can able to open your command prompt, and you can go for changing the directory to where your multi-chain has been installed. So here in my system, I have installed my multi-chain into C colon. So I have opened this C colon multi-chain, and I have copied that path. Copied that path and changed the desktop, changed the folder now, right? So then I move on to creating the first node of my multi-chain in the physical machine. So for that, I need to give a command called multi-chain hyphen util. Create is a keyword. Multi-chain is a keyword, and create is a keyword. Along with that, multi-chain util create. Along with that, you need to give the name of your node. So I have given the name as node 1. So you can give your own name here. So whatever the name of the node you are wishing, you can give that here. So sorry. Yes, I have created a node here with multi-chain util create the name of your node. So I have created a node as node 1. So when you enter this command, you can able to generate a message like this. Yes, you can able to see here that blockchain parameter was successfully generated. Meaning is that your Genesis block has been created, right? So I have initiated my blockchain node with a name of node 1 now. Then I move on to find out what actually is there in this params.file. So now you can go into this folder, right? So this is where you install your multi-chain actual zip folder. No? So in that folder, in that drive, you can able to see this a folder called multi-chain, where you have the parameter file. So it is like a notepad file. You can see here. So when I copied and paste that file into the C colon, I can able to see this. Right. You can also see this. This is the parameter file of my node 1, and this is where I can configure the data or the working of my multi-chain. This is where I can change my private type of multi-chain into consortium type of multi-chain. You have different parameters here. We'll see it one by one. Yes, you have different parameters, and you can able to set this all out. And there are some things that should not be edited. You can see here the following parameters were generated by multi-chain util, and this should not be edited. Right. So it will be generating a default network port, default RPC port, and all. So these things are not to be edited. and you have, you can see here, you can able to see the Genesis block generated here. So this will be the first node where the Genesis block has been deployed. So this will be the root block of our blockchain. So this is the first and foremost block in our blockchain. So Genesis block has been generated now. So next I move on to running a multi-chain daemon, right? So before moving into working or process daemon first, and daemon should be running in the background. So I'm going to just copy this multi-chain daemon node. So just copied and pasted here. So the daemon is running, telling you that the node is ready for configuration, and it is listening on the port called 2688. You can able to see here the port number is 2688, and this particular node 1 is waiting on this port for connection, right? And you can see here, this is what is called as node address. So everything in your multi-chain will be node address, where this node 1 is the name of my blockchain node along with the IP address followed by its port number. So this is called as node address, and we will be denoting this node only by this node address hereafter. So everything for this multi-chain node will be of this node address. So then one thing to be noted here is my daemon should be running in my background in order to keep my blockchain node alive. So don't close that particular command prompt. It should be running in your background. So I am going to never disturb that. So just I am going to minimize that and open another command prompt where I can go for actual working here. So again, I'll be changing my folder. So CD, and the path has been given. So now I can process anything in this node here, right? So keep this aside. Now my node 1 is ready, and I can able to process in this node 1. Fine. So in order to make a connection between another node, I need to keep ready another node, right? For that, I'm going for so I'm going so I'm initiating my Windows instance. So this will be my another node. I'm going to deploy my another node in the virtual machine. So if you have two different systems, you can deploy the other node in another physical system also. Yes, now I'm going to deploy my node 2 in this physical machine with the same procedure. So the same way, I have copied this multi-chain installation folder. Actually, I shared my installation folder. So it will be in the desktop itself. So you can see here in my virtual machine, I have again copied this multi-chain folder into my desktop. Okay, next I move on to handshake or connect with the next node. So the same process has been repeated in the virtual machine also in order to create a node 2. So again, I try to connect these node 1 and node 2. So that is what is called as handshaking process. And for that, you need to have three things. One is the name of the node along with appended with the @ symbol along with the IP address and the port number. Right. So next I move on. so cd space my path where the multi-chain installation is residing. So I'll be pasting it. So then I move on to creating another node. So again I have to give multi-chain hyphen util create now node of this name of this node. So I have given the name as node in VM. So you can give whatever name you want. So you can see here the multi-chain node is created and the parameter file also created for this particular node. This is the second node which is running in my virtual machine. Yes, now I'm going to run a daemon here. Yes, the node is ready and the node address has been generated now, right? You can see here node name and with a different IP address and a different port number, right? Yes, my second node is ready now. So I have deployed a node in my physical machine with the name of node 1, and I have repeated the same process in my virtual box, and I have deployed another node called node in VM in virtual machine, and this is going to be node 2. So I'm going to connect these nodes now. So as usual, my daemon should be running in the background. So I should not disturb that command prompt. So I'm going to just minimize that and open another command prompt where I need to change the desktop path. Yes. So I am not to disturb this daemon. And now I'm trying to connect. I'm trying to connect my node 1 from node 2, right? So in virtual machine, you see that in virtual machine, I'm going to connect with node 1. So what I have given was multi-chain daemon node 1 because I need to connect node 1 from node 2. So I have given this command multi-chain daemon node 1, the IP address of node 1 along with its port number, right? You can clearly see that the blockchain has been successfully initiated, but it cannot be connected. You can see that, right? So it will be mentioning that please ask. Yes, it is retrieving the parameters and find out that the connection permission has not been given it. So I'm going to copy this command and I'm going to it go for opening the command prompt, another command prompt where I need to give this connection. See, I have given multi-chain client node 1 grant permission to valid address of node 2. So this is grant keyword followed by valid address of node 2, and I have given for asking for permission for connection. So connect is a keyword. So on executing this, I can able to get a transaction ID. So you can able to see here some 14511453. So this is a transaction ID for this connection request. Yes. Now my node 1 and node 2 have or and node 1 running in my physical machine and the node 2 running in my virtual machine are getting connected now. So next I move on to finding out the information related to node in the network. So for that I can have different commands here. So this help you can see this help is a command where you can get all the list of commands available in your multi-chain. When you give this help command, it should be preceded with this multi-chain client, the name of your node, followed by help command. So if can able to find out all the list of commands that the multi-chain is supporting. So it will list out all the commands. So again, you need to have get info, list address, list permissions. We will be doing all this one by one. So then, now I'm going to proceed by finding out what are the informations available in this node 1. So for that, I need to give multi-chain CLI. CLI is meant for client. So node 1 is the name of this node and I'll be giving get info. So I'll be giving the command called get info. So when I give this get info command, my yes, the answer would be the information of node 1. So it will give all the information that has been configured for node 1. So this will be the default one, right? I didn't see value here. Real-time simulation, hence testnet is false. Yes, this is how. Yes, we can have, and one more thing is, in multi-chain, you can have the option for going for off-chain mechanism. Off-chain is keeping a data aside and only using the hash value of that data to be kept in the blockchain. So this reduces somewhat the complexity of blockchain and the scalability of blockchain has been increased. So off-chain mechanism is supported by this multi-chain. Whereas you don't have any type of off-chain support in Ethereum and Hyperledger directly. You need to have deploy a network called Lightning Network in Bitcoin in order to make it as a off-chain network. But whereas in your multi-chain, you don't need to go for an extra pressure. So off-chain is passed here and port number 2689 is open for connection. So all these details will be for your node 1. So then I move on to finding out what are the of addresses and permissions available in this node 1. So I'm going to click multi-chain CLI. So we are not in the interactive mode. So everything should be, every command should be preceded by this multi-chain hyphen client and the name of the node followed by the command. So for listing addresses, I have to give a multi-chain CLI node 1. So that is the name of my node. So succeeded by my list addresses. So you can see here, when I give this list address, it will be giving the address of my wallet. You can able to see here, right? Yes, the address of my wallet address of my node 1. So you can able to see here. So you can able to see the wallet address here, and as I have mentioned you in the theory, multi-chain has been go for giving the another command called list addresses. So what are all the nodes connected to this particular, sorry, list permissions? What are all the permissions given for this particular node? So you can able to see here. The first address is 16RH, which is you can keep in mind this 16RH is the valid address of node 2 because we have connected it, right? So you can able to see here. Yes, you can able to see the list of permissions here. So you can able to see the wallet address of node 2. So which you can verify from the connection. So you have given the connection, right? So that is why it is mentioned that type is connect. Yes, you can have the connect, and all the other addresses are the wallet address of this node itself, right? So only one node is connected with node 1, so that is why the wallet address of 2 is in the first, and then we have different addresses which are the wallet address of the same node itself, right? So all the permissions it will be listing out. So it can be an admin, it can be activator, and it can able to mine. Yes, it can able to connect. So I have given the permission for connection, and since it is connected, obviously it can able to send and receive the messages, and it can able to issue the asset also. Yes, and it can able to create the stream also. So these are the list of permissions that is assigned to node 1, right? So these are the default configuration which I didn't have no change here, right? So then I move on to giving another command called get peer info. Please note it down. I have connected only one peer here, right? Node 1 is connected to node 2. So only one peer is for node 1. Let's see what the information is coming. You can see here, I have given multi-chain CLI node 1 to get the peer information of the connected nodes, right? Get peer info. But you can see that empty thing is retained over here. Why is that? I have failed to initiate the connection from node 2. So I need to go for my virtual box or virtual machine, that is the node 2. In node 2, I need to extend my connection. Right. For that, I need to give multi-chain D node 1 IP address along with the port number. Now, the connection is established from to and fro. Right. So now multi-chain node 2 is also able to connect with node 1. So I need to give that. Yes, yes. Now you can see the node is ready and it is listening in port number 2688. Yes, you can see now the API request can be accessible at node number 2688. So now I'm going to run that daemon. So now back to my node 1 that is running on my physical machine. Again, I'm going to give the same command get peer info. Now see what actually it results in. So when I give the same command multi-chain CLI, yes, you can see now it will be giving you the peer information. So the address, so this will be the node address. So this will be the node address of your So we can able to this node to get the pure information. Yes, I can able to see the address of my node 2, node address and its port number. Along with that, you have ping time. So the time to connect with the node 2. Since we are running in the virtual machine of the same physical machine, the ping time is very much lesser here. And the handshake wallet address. So that this will be the connection transaction ID returned while we connect from node 1 to node 2. Yes. Or also. So yes, that is the wallet address of node 2 and you can see it in the node 1 here. It is handshaking with node 2 and O or enterprise edition, you can able to have this able to have this connection. So then moving on to stream. So this is actually the most important concept of multi-chain. So we have stream configuration, and one thing to be here is you can create any number of streams in between any two entities, and it is not going to much affect the working of blockchain. So it is not like you need to optimize this number of streams in order to have a good working blockchain. So that is not a constraint over here. You can create any number of streams here, and each of your streams has items and it is a multi-signature type. This is also the most important concept of multi-chain. Why this multi-chain can be used in this research community. This is the only main reason. So you can have your data items to be signed as a multi-signature, right? So multi-signature meaning is that one data item can be signed by two different entities, and at the same time these two different entities need to collaborate in order to put a multi-signature in an item. So this enables the security to another level, right? So that is again the importance of this stream, and it is something like a key value database. So you can retrieve any item based on the key it has been assigned with. And one more thing is you don't have any smart contracts here. So now there may be a question arises, if smart contracts are not able to apply then this multi-chain, why this multi-chain is that much important? The reason is that in case of your Bitcoin transactional constraints, you can able to attain performance and concurrency. But in case of your Ethereum smart contract type of constraints, you can have flexibility. But at any point of time, you can answer what is the need of smart contract. The only thing is smart contract helps in secure sharing of information. So I can have streams here. And it is also can be encrypted with public or private key. Then what is the need of smart contract? So multi-chain does not support smart contracts. Yes, then we move on to create a stream here. So for creating a stream, I need to give multi-chain. So for creating a stream, you need to give multi-chain CLI, publish, stream one is name of the stream, So stream 1 is name of the stream. So node 1 is going to establish a stream called stream 1 along with the key called key 1. So it can name any number of keys here, and a stream will be using more number of keys. So I am going to give a JSON data here. So you can see here I have given a JSON data with name and city. So I have given a JSON data. You can give a JSON file itself, right? So for time being, I have given 2 JSON data to be published in node 1. You can see that a stream has been created with the name of stream 1 and a key 1 is used to publish a JSON data. So after this command has been executed, you will be given with a transaction ID. So this is the transaction data here. So this is JSON data. On establishing or on publishing this data, you can able to generate a transaction ID here. Fine. So then this is publish subscribe mechanism of IoT. So this is something like that. So the node 1 is publishing a JSON data in stream 1. So now we are trying to access that stream 1 data by subscribing from node 2. So I'm going to subscribe node 2 in order to access the data in node 1, stream of node 1. So that stream 1 is shared between node 1 and node 2. So I'm going to give multi-chain CLI. So this is going to be node 1 because I'm going to access node 1. So in node 2, I'm going to access node 1. So multi-chain CLI and I'm giving subscription. So I'm going to subscribe the data. Yes. So node 1 list streams. I can give the same command here, list streams. So it will be listing the stream 1 that is shared between node 1 and node 2 with this transaction ID. And you can see here the subscription status is true. And one item has been published, right? So you can see here publisher is 1 because node 1 is the only one who is published in that particular stream and with a key 1. So we have published a JSON file with key 1. So this is how a stream has been created and the data has been published in that particular stream. And to be noted here is it is not mandatorily you need to have a JSON data here. So inside your stream, you can have whatever the data you want to give. You can give a binary data or you can give a plain text data, whatever data you can give. And one more thing is when you use this multi-chain enterprise demo, then you can have encrypted data to be transferred in the stream also. But whereas your multi-chain community cannot support this encrypted streams. Right. So then we move on to publishing and subscription of data from the streams. So then I can able to grant permission from node 1 in order to access or in order to even publish from node 2. So at first we have seen that node 2 is getting access or subscription to the node 1's stream. But you can also able to grant permission for node 2 in order to publish a data from its side into the same stream 1. For that, I'll be granting the permission in node 1. So in my physical system, I'll be giving multi-chain client node 1. I can give this grant. So this is the wallet address of node 2 and I'm giving permission for node 2 to write in stream 1. So stream 1 is the name of the stream in node 1 and I'm going to give write permission for node 2 to access this, right? Because I'm giving the node 2's wallet address here. So on executing this, you can able to retain a transaction ID, which means that now node 2 is capable of publishing a data in stream 1. So stream 1 is now capable of getting data from node 1 also and node 2 also, and both of these node 1 and node 2 are subscribing the data in the stream. So then I move on to find out what are all the stream, meaning is that I can able to find out what actually node 1 published in the stream. So for that I need to give list streams. So in that case you can able to see the data from node 2. Yes, this is what I have written in my JSON file, right? I have given name as Priya and city as Chennai, right? So that can be viewed in node 2, right? So this is from node 2. I can able to view the data, JSON data, what I have entered in node 1 stream. So node 2 can able to see that data, right? And you can see here off chain is false, meaning is that you can see you can able to see the actual data here. When it is off chain is true, then you can able to see only the hash of this data. So that is not possible in multi-chain community. So when you use multi-chain enterprise, you can able to access this. So then I can able to see what are all the contents in the stream. So for that I need to give this list stream followed by name of stream. So I can give list stream keys followed by name of the stream. So when I give this list stream keys, it will be giving you what are all the keys and along with the values for that particular stream. So again, I can able to see the key one, rather data related to this key one can also be seen, and the publishers of only the publishers of stream one can also be seen. Meaning is that only the node wallet addresses that are able to publish data in this stream one can also be listed here. And you can also have what are the items that has been published. So for that I need to give list stream publisher items, the name of the stream followed by the wallet address and along with the streams. So with that I can able to see what are all the things that can be done with the stream. So this is something very related to your Hyperledger channels. So for all the things that can be do with Hyperledger channels can be done with this multi-chain stream also. So next, I was telling you that multi-chain can be configured as a consortium blockchain, right? For that, the important parameters has been listed out here. So these are the important parameters on my perspective that can be changed in order to configure your multi-chain into a consortium type of blockchain. So you can see here with no permissions, you can have a Bitcoin style blockchain here, and you can create a native asset here also. When you go for Bitcoin style configuration, you can enable Bitcoin asset to be used here, right? So again, you can have a stream concept in order to have the notion of Hyperledger channel concept here. And then you can, this is the most important thing to be noted, you can have this block size to be maximum set as 8 MB. And one more thing is, when you use multi-chain higher versions, in case of your multi-chain 2.2.1, you can also able to set this value up to 64 MB. See that will be the most renowned way of using your multi-chain, right? So at the same time, you can able to design this also. Who can connect with your node, who can send assets in your node, who can receive assets in your node, whatever the thing you can set over here. And this is also the most important thing. So transaction block, target block time. So this is you can set this value. So when you set this value to be low, the security of your multi-chain is somewhat less. When you increase this target time, the security will be keep on increasing. So again, this will be it will decide the security of multi-chain, and it will be based on the application scenario where you are going to deploy this multi-chain. Where you need to configure this chain. So for that, you need to go here. it will be in app data roaming multi-chain, where you have the parameter file. And to be noted here is, upon creating one node, you cannot use the same node unless and otherwise if you are deleting this data. So when you delete this folder, you can able to create the node with the same node one. If at all this folder persists, you cannot able to manipulate this folder. So then you can have your configuration files here. So in multi-chain node 1, you have a notepad called param. So this will be holding the parameter data, and you can able to change the parameters here. So you can able to, this is the paper of mine recently published, where I have used the customized blockchain for IoT. If you want, you can see that. So these are all the references. And the session is open to query now.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, ma'am, for using blockchain in Internet of Things, is multi-chain a good infrastructure?
Yes, sir. I was concerning about my consistency and data sharing capability. For that, I have used multi-chain. You can view my recent paper here, where I have used multi-chain for sharing data, securely sharing data between IoT nodes.
Only for sharing data. For example, if we want to use some tiny encryption algorithms, so we can share the data using these devices, using a
No,
multi-chain
sir.
sort of.
Yes, sir. No, the thing is, you will be having a much amount of data generated in an IoT network, right? So
Yeah.
you record that particular data. So in that case, the length of the data will be higher. So at the same time, you cannot directly move that or direct that particular data into the blockchain. So in that case, you need to check for the scalability of using blockchain and IoT.
Yeah.
So you need to keep all these things into mind, sir.
Yeah. Ma'am, any specific programming language that we need to learn for using this multi-chain infrastructure?
Sir, I couldn't get you, sir.
Ma'am, I'm saying that is there any specific programming language or any specific platform that we need to learn to implement this multi-chain?
No, sir, definitely not. So you can have only this comments so that you can reach that multi-chain code, and the background code will also be in C and C++. So no more programming language to be read or to be well versed in order to use this multi-chain. It is as simple as it, but the infrastructure you need to check it out, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, one more question. Can we implement this multi-chain on Raspberry Pis?
Yes, sir, you can able to do. But the thing is, you need to called Saviour. So I can spell it Savioir. It is a Python-based interface. So you can use that interface in order to combine your IoT hardware along with this multi-chain network, sir.
Saviour platform, SAVIOR.
Yes, Savioir. It is not a platform. It is a Python-based interface.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Shweta ma'am, what you need to repeat, ma'am?
Sir?
Shweta ma'am is asking one doubt, ma'am. Platform name, ma'am.
Sure. It is not platform. It is a Python-based interface. Savioir. Saviour. I'll write it down.
Yes, ma'am. You can put in chat box.
I have written, sir. Savioir.
Okay, ma'am. Any other queries, participants? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ajay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the wonderful session, ma'am. It was very nice, and you took it in a very polite manner. And thank you once again for coming back and taking the session for us.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Last but not the least, I want to thank the management of PSNA, the principal and the organizing committee of this FDP for giving me this opportunity. And I want to thank my colleagues and my fellow researchers for your patient listening. Happy learning.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Catch you through the phone, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Now
sir.
we kindly request the participants to share your valuable feedback at this moment. Participants are requested to share the feedback for the entire Atal FTP.
We'll be very happy that if you share your feedback with us today.
You can unmute yourself and you can speak. Feedback from the participants.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. Hello,
Thank you
ma'am.
for the wonderful feedback in the chat box. But we'll be very happy that if anyone unmute yourself and you can speak to us.
Yes. Participants, you can unmute yourself and you can share your feedback. We will be happy for that.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Dr. Gunavati from
Yes, ma'am.
Christ University.
Yes, ma'am.
Really, it's a wonderful session, sir. The resource person you identified or a very good profile, and also we learned many things about this blockchain. Being we are learning the first time of blockchain technologies, it is very, very useful for us. And also some of the sessions were conducted in a practical session. So that is also very useful for us, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful session, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you for the wonderful feedback, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Any other participants? You can share your feedback by unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Dr. Valarmadi.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Professor from Dr. Mahalingam College of Engineering and Technology. After nearly 36 years of experience from government service, I have rejoined, and I really enjoyed these sessions because currently this blockchain happened to be the upcoming research area. So I was very interested in attending this FDP. I'm very happy I have attended this because you have chosen the speakers in such a way that exploit almost all the concepts. And then currently we are going with IoT. So how this IoT is also blended with this blockchain that has been also exploited. The speakers, they have done a wonder. They have taken great pains in delivering that PowerPoint presentation, as well as one or two hands-on session also. And then the morning session also I enjoyed because it will be useful that for the students we can ask them to test, because even if they are not able to do the programming with this Tinkercad, that also important thing which we can tell it to our students. So I enjoy the sessions. Thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity given, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
I am Sivita, Associate Professor of Computer Science Department from St. Xavier's Catholic College of Engineering, sir. Actually, all the sessions were very nice and all were interactive. And what to say is that the help you have done now. Everything you have posted on time. You have started all the sessions on time, and feedbacks, links, and all. Whenever people asked you, tried your level best to help them, and said lot of things, lot of help you people have done, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. Very, very informative sessions, and the way you have arranged everything was also very nice, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Sir, this is Lavina Balraj, Assistant Professor from St. Joseph College of Engineering,
Yes, ma'am.
Sri Parampudur. And talking about the session is really very informative. And the organization also, the time management, the section management, and also the arranging the Google Classroom, providing the feedbacks, providing the materials is really very useful. And also the resource management from both from the industrial side and also from the college side is really helpful, and hope this would be really helpful for us to continue our research in the blockchain. Really nice session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Sir, myself Anjali Sharma. I am assistant professor from IMT University, Meerut. All the session hello, can I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All the speakers are having very good knowledge and very interactive session. Actually, I am the first time attending the LPP, which is based on the blockchain. So very informative for me. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
ma'am.
ma'am. Thank you so much.
Any other participants? You can share your feedback here.
Good afternoon, sir. I am K. Kavita from Vellalar College of Engineering and Technology.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
The session was very interesting. All the session was very useful, sir. More than that, the coordination was very good. We could get all the information through WhatsApp, everything, and the Google Classroom. The contents are very nice, and we can get all the videos. All are accessible. Just one small requisition: if we are able to get the resource person phone number and email ID with their permission, it will be very useful for us to conduct the program like this in our colleges. And as a result of attending this program, we can make this useful to our students also. Thank you very much, sir. Saravanan sir and Vijay sir, we are more helpful and interactive towards the participants. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
We will definitely we will share all the details, ma'am. Contact details.
Thank you, sir.
Through
Thank you,
mail or
sir.
through WhatsApp, whatever resource we have, we will send it to you. No problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other participants? You can share your feedback here.
Myself Manish Kodaskar from Pune Institute of Computer Technology, Maharashtra, Pune. So thank you, sir, Vijay sir, Saravanan sir, for excellent organization about this organize about the FDP related. All the speakers was excellent. They are knowledgeable and they given the proper hands-on some of the faculty. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Any other participants? You can share your experience also.
Good evening, sir. This is Satyaraj from RMK College of Engineering and Technology. So I'm very thankful. Yeah, I am very thankful for the coordinators for organizing wonderful faculty development program on blockchain with IoT. So we have learned many things and excellent coordination among you three people. And we were attending the second FTTP organized by PSNA College of Engineering and Technology. And we are very happy and proud to be as a part of PSNA when they are organizing any kind of events in a excellent manner. Thank you to the coordinators once again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Any other participants?
Thank you, Vijay sir and Saravanan sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any other participants?
This is Rupa Shaha from Narula Institute of Technology. I'm an assistant professor in that college. I have been attending many FDPs in Atal, which were organized by Atal. But this is for the first time I've attended, which is related to blockchain, and all the speakers were very nice, and the sessions were very informative, and the organizers and the coordinators were very polite and helpful. And there, apart from those sessions, theoretical sessions, we had a practical session which added an extra feature to this FTP. And moreover, all the sessions PPTs and all the videos are also available. That is a very good thing. That thank you all the organizers.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
We have updated all the videos up to last day, yesterday session. We will upload the remaining within today. Any other feedback from the participants?
Thank you to all the wonderful feedbacks I'm seeing reaching on chat box. Thank you to every members who have given a positive feedbacks. I'm very happy to see your feedbacks here.
Thank you so much, participants.
Sir, we can wind up the session.
Yes, sir. Now I kindly request Dr. A. Prasant sir, Assistant Professor ECE, to give the vote of thanks.
So good evening to one and all present here. So first I would like to thank management, principal sir, and special thanks to our HOD ma'am for giving this wonderful opportunity. So we remember those days, so we applied for that Atal FDP and eagerly waiting for that Atal FDP results. So we thank HOD ma'am as well as the remaining coordinators for wonderful support with us. And next we thank all the resource persons, especially we thank resource persons because all the sessions was good. Maybe the participants also feel like that only. And last, we thank the entire participants for continuing for us. And so thank you so much. And I hope all the sessions was very useful for you, especially for your research perspective. So our target is only for research perspective because we already know about individual technologies, blockchain, as well as IoT individually, but how to integrate. So that is a new thing we are planning for it, the integration part. I hope you people will understood clearly about that integration part. So definitely all the sessions delivered by the resource person will be helpful for you, for your research as well as for your future research article writing also. So thank you for your all cooperation and all the best for your future research, and we built good research, especially in the blockchain as well as IoT. So thank you for one and all gather here. Thank you all. Thank you entire participants. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Jay, sir.
The participants are requested to stay online for 1 more minute. And today we'll be having our test to get a certificate, and the test will sharply begin by 6 p.m. using your Google Classroom. So I believe that everyone have registered yourself in your GCR and start writing your test at 6 p.m.